But the accusers in this case are all older women. Two of them are transient women. They describe themselves as transient women in their mid to late 50s. Two other accusers who accuse him of lewd conduct are in their 60s, and one woman 77 years old. So that's what really has a lot of folks scratching their head about this. Number one, that a guy who earned $40 million during his career is now retired, and this is what he's alleged to be doing during his retirement. And number two, the age of the accusers here.
Well, I think part of this also is football players and getting hit in the head and how they behave and what happens after their careers and, what they're in control of and what they're not, and CTE and all of that. Kellen Winslow was a pretty unique player when he came in, known for all of the macho part that you'd want for the football player, but all the soldier video and all that stuff. I think there were a faction of teams sort of turned off by parts of that 15 years ago. But for his father, I've seen his father at Super Bowls. His father's a pretty decorated individual as well, and a guy that fought on behalf of his son. All of that's going to get played back out as well as the San Diego Chargers and the Junior Seau thing. It's been a long history with football there, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And if you look more recently at the Aaron Hernandez trial, after Aaron Hernandez committed suicide, they examined him and found that he suffered from CTE. Now, here's the twist in the case of Kellen Winslow, though. The defense is not using any sort of mental impairment defense. They're not blaming CTE. They're not blaming any sort of mental defect going on with Kellen Winslow II. What they're saying their defense, no strings attached sex. Basically, what they're saying is that he had consensual sex with all these women. They're not sure what exactly the relationship is yet or what the defense is going to allege, whether it was sex for money or whether it was just taking advantage of an opportunity. But they're not going to allege that he is one bit mentally impaired, which surprised a lot of us.
Well, yeah, Vinnie Politan joining us here from Court TV, and we've had plenty of these things, and we'll get to Bob Kraft and some of the other off-the-field jurisprudence stuff. But for this case, and this thing going on for the better part of a month here in the off-season, I would think that the sports TV shows will be getting onto this thing, and popular media will be picking up on this story as these women and these stories start to unfold a little bit here. 6 weeks, 5 weeks, this is going to take, right?
It is, because you're really talking about 5 trials in one, because these are 5 different accusers from 5 different alleged incidents taking place at different times. One of them is from back in 2003. This is a woman who was 17 years old, says Kellen Winslow was 19 years old at the time. They had consensual sex, met up again at another party. She passed out. She was saying no, and she alleges that he continued to have sex with her, and that is the case in 2003. The rest of them are from like 2018, and then there's one from the local hot tub at his gym with the 77-year-old woman where he's alleged to be doing some things to himself while sitting next to her in the hot tub. That happened just recently when he was out on bond waiting for his trial to begin. So bizarre stuff over the course of a bunch of time, but it's going to take time because you're talking about so many different accusers, all of them slightly different circumstances.
Well, and we're talking about jail for life here, right? I mean, this is.
Yeah.
They're going to put, as far as what you know about these cases and videotape scenes, things that put him in the crime scene, all of that. He's not saying that he wasn't involved in any of that, right? He's saying, yeah, I was there and we all agreed to this, literally.
Yes. Yeah, he's going to. His attorney was very clear in the opening statement that back in 2003 that was consensual, and the 2 women, the transient women, that was consensual. And then he's saying the other 2 didn't really happen. So that's a different situation because that's, again, the lewd conduct. But the 3 forcible rapes that he's charged with, claiming that all of them are consensual. So it's not like, hey, the DNA is going to win the day here because the DNA would be there whether it's consensual or whether it's rape. So it's going to be fascinating to see the way it plays out in court because these accusers are all going to testify. I mean, they're coming into court and they are going to tell their stories and be subjected to cross-examination and everything else that comes along with it. So At the end of the day, it's going to be a lot of drama in the courtroom. It's going to be very compelling, and it's not clear what's going to happen. I think that the toughest thing for him to overcome is the fact that there's 5 accusers, but if you look at each individual case, there is a defense to each one. The question is, will the juries look at it that way, or do they look at it like, well, if 5 different women are coming forward and alleging this stuff, something is going on with this guy.
Vinnie Politan is the former attorney and journalist, now the lead anchor at Court TV. They'll be following this Kellen Winslow Jr. trial, but I guess the thing that has popped up the most over the last 3 months has been the Robert Kraft story and whether videotape would surface in the United States and China and the FBI and brothels and spas and all of this stuff. So far, it feels like Robert Kraft has gotten what he has wanted. There's been a lot of allegations that his money has afforded him that opportunity. I know you followed this from the beginning, and this certainly has all the salaciousness of a nice little sports court TV story, doesn't it, Vinny?
Oh, absolutely. And we've been talking about it already, and there was the huge ruling about the judge the other day. So what happened was the investigators down there in Florida got a warrant, and based on that warrant, they put surveillance cameras inside this day spa. Well, now the judge has ruled that warrant wasn't rightfully granted. That what the state did is they made some mistakes in what they did, and they trampled on the civil rights of other people. So this is a day spa where you can go and get a massage, and there were people legitimately just getting massages there. There were others that the state alleges that were getting more than a massage. However, it turns out that investigators were watching everyone inside. So if someone went in to get a massage and they thought that they were, in a private room with their masseuse getting a massage, a lawful massage, they were being watched by investigators, and that upset the judge, and the judge said that is just a trampling on people's rights, and as a result, anything that came from those videotapes cannot be used in court because they were unlawfully gotten, illegal videotapes. So now the lone question that really remains, well, 2 questions remain. One, can they prosecute him without the videotapes? That's seemingly unimportant to Robert Kraft. What's most important is, will the videotapes be released now? Because in Florida, they have a very liberal open records law, which means anything that the government does is a record that the public should have access to. Usually in a criminal case, a videotape like that would be subjected to those rules, so any member of the public who wants it can ask for it, and they have to release it. But now that the judges ruled they were illegally made, the question still remains now, can they be released, or will the judge prevent that videotape of Robert Kraft alone in the room doing what the state said he was doing with that massage therapist be released to the public?
Will it ever happen, Vinny, in your mind? I mean, I don't really need to see this sex act of Bob Kraft. I mean, it will not fulfill my life in any way. But I guess in the past this has happened. There's precedent for these sort of sting operations and having regular guys be exposed in this way.
Absolutely. But see, regular guys are not going to fight it. And that's what happened here. So there were a bunch of other people that were swooped up in this sting operation, right? But the prosecutor had alleged that there was human trafficking going on. There was no human trafficking. There was none of that. So that was a false premise, a false predicate in part for what these warrants were gotten for. Normally, the stuff would be released. The guys would take whatever deal and just move on as quickly as possible. Robert Kraft is probably the only one, and probably the worst thing that happened to prosecutors down there, because he has more means than the local prosecutors do. As a billionaire, he has a lot more money, time, and resources than they do. And quite frankly, when you look at the law, he's got the law on his side as well. So my guess is we will never see those videotapes. They won't be posted online. And I think most importantly, Robert Kraft is probably his grandchildren will never see him online.
Well, Vinny, I'm a sports radio guy here, doesn't like the Patriots. I would say, illegal videotapes. I mean, Kraft knows all about that. He's had Belichick out in the trees with the Jets a couple of years ago, right?
There's a lot of irony. There's more irony. The original warrants that they got were a result of the Patriot Act. So the Patriot Act, which was designed to get terrorists and surveil terrorists and do things like that, was actually used to get the warrant that got the videotape of Robert Kraft.
Poor old guy's lonely. What can you say? Vinnie Politan here, former attorney journalist, now the lead anchor at Court TV. Tell everybody about Court TV. You do a whole lot more than just like follow around sports stars who are in jurisprudence trouble, right?
That's true. Yeah, what we do is we cover the most compelling trials that are happening. Gavel to gavel live coverage, and we're on 24/7. There's a million different ways to get us. You can go on to iwantmycourttv.com. Put in your zip code, and it'll tell you exactly where you can pick us up in whatever market you are.
Hey, last thing for you. You say you cover all relevant, big. What are some trials that are coming up that maybe I've forgotten about or don't know about, or things that are going to be in the purview of what you do the rest of the year?
Harvey Weinstein.
Okay.
Remember Harvey Weinstein? It was really the beginning of the Me Too explosion. Well, he's got a trial coming up in New York. That one's scheduled. I think right in the beginning of the fall now. They just got a new trial date on that. So that one certainly is happening. A couple other ones that we're tracking is the R. Kelly case. He was indicted out of Illinois. So that case is percolating. There'll be a bunch of pretrial hearings that we'll be covering as we get ready for the trial on that one. Those are two of the bigger ones that are out there right now. But, cases happen. Unfortunately, in our business, we're never short on content or material or stories or cases. But I would say those are probably the two highest profile ones right now.
I hope we get the president on trial at some point, and then I'll be watching Court TV, and I'll be calling you, and you can give me all that. How about that? We'll go to the blow-by-blow on all that. How about that? Hey, man, we'll be watching. I do appreciate your time on the Kellen Winslow story, and as well as Bob Kraft and keeping us up and up to date on that. We'll send everybody out to Court TV to follow along.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
You got it. Vinnie Politan, I Want My Court TV. There you go. And the Kellen Winslow Jr. trial. Remember the Ray Lewis thing was kind of a big deal around here. I would think out in San Diego that's going to be a big deal. But even more so, the NFL on trial. Imagine that. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. The buyatoyota.com audio vault there 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore. We never stop talking Baltimore sports.